One of the most popular topics I have found all across our wonderful community, and especially on this particular channel, is you guys are always interested in some cheap fragrances that last pretty long. Now for me, that's going to be 7 to 8 hours minimum on up. And in this video, I've got 10 of those fragrances that, for me personally, it's 7-8ish hours bare minimum from all 10 recommendations that I have here. And I paid under $40 for all of them. So stay tuned. Starting with one I haven't spent time with in a little while, that this is one of those fragrances I plan on reaching back in my collection like I've been speaking about recently to start wearing again. It is from Roberto Cavalli. This is UOMO. I do have the flanker UOMO Silver Essence as well. This is a bit sweeter. It's still very floral, has a lot of violet going for it. Oh, but the dose of honey that you get up top, man, this stuff is delightful. This is a 60 ml bottle. I got it for right around 25 bucks. That's kind of going rate for these 60 ml bottles. $30-ish can get a 100 ml. 60 ml is plenty. It's very powerful. I did a full review on this one a while back on the channel. Very potent. This one goes well beyond that minimum that I was telling you about in the intro of the video. Loud, long-lasting, gourmand touches because it's got that dominant sweetness of that honey. Beautiful violet leaf here, as long as you're okay with florals. It's not too floral. I don't find it very feminine in any way, and it definitely can garner some really good attention. One that does not get talked about much these days that deserves some attention. Hence the reason I'm wanting to reach back in my collection and start wearing it more again myself. Check this one out if you haven't yet. You're missing out if you like sweet or you like floral with Roberto Cavalli UOMO. This next one's actually a pretty new arrival to my collection. I haven't had it a long time. I've worn it a few times now. It is Mont Blanc Emblem Intense. Not one that you see a whole lot about. 60 ml like this, I spent $30 at the rack stores, but you can get a 100 milliliter bottle from the discounters online for the same price, right around $30. And the name's fitting. It's a much more intense version of the original. It has this warm apple type of smell, this fruitiness up top with the cinnamon that the fragrance is known for. It's warm but not too warm. It's sweet but not too sweet. It kind of has a very nice smooth blend where the sweet notes, the spicy notes, the woody notes, they all complement each other very well. And this is another one, 8-hour realm. Very heavy projection in the first 2 hours for me. And it doesn't smell like everything else. It does remind you of your Mont Blanc Legends and Abercrombie & Fitch Fierce. It's in that vein without smelling like Legend and Fierce directly, because there's much more spice going for it here because of that prominent cinnamon. Overlooked and underrated in my opinion. This is worthy of checking out. This is worthy of taking a gamble on, because I'm not too sure where you can sample it from. You're most likely going to have to blind buy it, and I got to tell you, I was very pleasantly surprised when I blind bought this one, because I had the original, I had Absolute, and this is hands down the best of the three. Check it out if you haven't yet. Mont Blanc Emblem Intense. Another one that does not get a lot of love publicly. Quietly, it gets plenty of love. A lot of people wear this fragrance, and the times I've featured it in the past, you guys came out the woodworks to talk about it. I'm talking about 212 Men Sexy. This fragrance right here, it's in the same vein of Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Male, but much more warm and sexy. It's a more seductive take on that style fragrance. It has that aromatic, minty vanilla kind of smell going. Has that similar smell without, minus the mint really, but that creamy, soapy, aromatic lavender with the creamy sweet vanilla. Only you get some warm amber, a little bit of spices and woods here. They kind of take it and change it and walk the path of Le Male and then veer off just a little bit to make it more evening appropriate in my opinion. And this is another one lasts very long on my skin, surprisingly long on my skin, without being too heavy of a projector. It's not real in your face, but it does have a nice intoxicating trail that can turn heads. My wife loves the way this one smells on me, and you can get them for a really good price. This 50 ml I paid 30 bucks for at the rack stores, and that's kind of going rate for a 50 ml. You don't need a ton of sprays. This is at 5 spray range for me. and it's more than enough to go well beyond what a date night time frame is for us, even past the nightcap. Some really good stuff that doesn't get a lot of public love. But what I meant by behind the scenes is I was surprised how many people actually enjoy this by the last 2 times I featured it. A lot of comments about this one. You guys get it. If you haven't tried it yet, check it out. 212 Men's Sexy. It's quite lovely. So normally I would save this bad boy for the end of a video like this, but I figured we'd go ahead and talk about it now, because I can't have a video like this without talking about one of the best, in my opinion, for my taste, long-lasting, cheap fragrances I have in my collection that can still be found for under $40, even though the prices have gone up over the last 2 years. Salvatore, Ferragamo, ACQUA, ESSENZIALE Blue. The gold mine steal is when you can find it at the rack stores now, because these 50 mLs, they go for $16.99 when they pop up. That's the steal price. That's when you're really winning there. Online testers are still in the 20 some odd dollar range, where they don't come with a cap for the 100 ml bottles. And I've noticed 100 mLs are in the mid to high 30s, even in the $40 range. And honestly, it's still worth it at that point. Not as cheap as it once was, unless you can find those rack store deals, but it's still a great fragrance. 8 to 9 hour range on my skin. I do have a backup bottle, 100 ml. This is a 50 ml. It's in the vein of a Versace Dylan Blue, but not as fresh and aquatic. This has more of a powdery nuance to it. It's more focused on sweet tonka bean. This lavender is very aromatic, but it adds to that powdery nature. It's not a super powdery fragrance, but it's more powdery than a Dylan Blue. It's not an Ambroxan bomb with a ton of citrus up top. There is a little bit of citrus. It's a similar vibe, but not the same fragrance. This one, you can have both and it's not redundant. I'm just kind of trying to paint you a picture of what I would most closely relate it to in scent profile, while not really the same, but to give you an idea. It is a blue fragrance at its core. It's not just a cool looking color. It is that style. And those of you that have been watching the channel for a little while, you know it's my favorite cheap blue fragrance, my favorite blue fragrance. Hell, one of my favorite fragrances in my collection, period. And it's definitely a cheapie that can last. Salvatore, Ferragamo, ACQUA, ESSENZIALE Blue. Not one that gets talked about often. It is my personal recommendation for somebody that wants to dip their toe in the water and try oud, because you can get this for $20. It performs. It's got a realistic approach to what you can expect from a more medicinal oud without being too hardcore oud. Banana Republic, Oud Mosaic, number 17. Okay, this is Oud Rose with some plum. The plum really gives it some extra character to where it doesn't smell exactly like every other Oud Rose out there. And for being a designer fragrance, especially one that you can get at Burlington's and places like that where these Banana Republic fragrances pop up for $20, it doesn't smell like a $20 oud. It just doesn't to me. And it's not the easiest wear. It's, for what it is, it's a challenge. Not like some of these niche ouds, these Middle Eastern oud fragrances. Those are the real challenging ones. The fecal, barnyard, crazy medicinal ones. There's a variety of ways to work with some serious oud. Here, you get a slight challenge. If you like this, you'll probably like more ouds and you'll want to expand your palette. If you don't like this, you're just not going to like oud. So that's why I say this is my recommendation for a good place to start, because you're only going to spend 20 bucks when you can find it at the rack stores. That's the best part. Worst case scenario, you're out 20 bucks, not 150, buying a niche fragrance. So, and it definitely does perform 8+ hours. Quite loud. You don't need a lot of sprays. It's sweet. It's got a jammy rose. It does have a very present oud from start to finish. That warm woods, slightly medicinal. It's, like I said, not too challenging, but it gives you a little bit of a challenge to let you know this is what oud's about for the most part. So one that I thoroughly enjoy, and those of you that have it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For 20 bucks, it's hard to beat. It really is. Oud Mosaic from Banana Republic. Next, this can still be found in the sub $40 range, thankfully, because it's a beast of a blue fragrance. Smells nothing like its namesake original. I'm talking about Davidoff Cool Water Intense. It's very hard to have a cheap, long-lasting video without one of the better cheap, long-lasting fragrances. Coconut Amber Ambroxan A little bit bubblegum. I say a little bit, it's more than a little bit. Bubblegummy smell. Big time. 3 notes listed. I feel like there's a lot more going on than that. Ambroxan's not listed, but it clearly smells like a bunch of Ambroxan. If you like Ambroxan, you're going to like this one. It's loud. It's in your face. It's very long lasting on my skin. And it can get you some compliments. As long as you're around people that don't get headaches from synthetics or have very sensitive noses and get headaches from strong fragrances. If it's your average coworker, friend, your girlfriend, whatever, and they don't get bothered by that kind of stuff, they just like something that smells good. This smells really good, and you'll probably get a compliment more than likely. Not a guarantee, but the likelihood's definitely up there with Cool Water Intense. It smells nothing like Cool Water. If you don't like the original Cool Water, don't let this detour you. It smells nothing, not even a little bit, like the original Cool Water. It shares the name and the bottle shape, but it does not smell like Cool Water. It is a modern blue fragrance that is a beast that you can get in the 30 some odd dollar range even now. eBay sellers, places like that, I see it all the time. It's not hard to get your hands on a bottle these days. Definitely a cheapie that lasts. Davidoff Cool Water Intense. So I had to have this one on here because it's surprisingly long lasting. In that 9 to 10 hour range, this stuff goes and goes, especially if you spray your clothes. It lasts forever. Sweet Coffee, Halloween Man X, Jesus del Pozo. So this was hyped up for a while, and for good reason. And look, it's very synthetic. If you're not a fan of synthetic fragrances, steer clear of this. But if that kind of stuff doesn't bother you and you just want a really good aroma, you want to get some performance for your money with a pretty good compliment factor, you should give this a try. It's got this dry roasted coffee note that comes in the heart. I don't get a ton of it in the opening. It's kind of a synthetic sweet blast up top, fresh and sweet. And as it starts to dry, that roasted coffee comes in more in the heart and stays for a long time. Very woody, sweet coffee fragrance. It's actually quite lovely, especially if you give it a chance. The opening can be a bit much. It'll punch you in the face with some synthetics, and it's pretty sweet up top. But if you give it a minute, this is a lovely fragrance. Some people love the opening. I actually like the opening, but I can see where it can be a bit much. It's in your face up top, but if you give it a minute, lovely, lovely sweet coffee fragrance. Probably the best cheap coffee fragrance that you can get your hands on that actually performs. There's another one, sub $40 range. Testers in the mid 20s, low 30s with a cap. It's a good fragrance, especially as we roll into the fall on into the winter seasons. This is a fantastic cheapie that lasts a long time. If you're into sweet coffee fragrances, you may have heard of this. If not, you should try it. Halloween Man X. Next, really the whole house. The entire house from Happy Land Studio. You see the sign right there, the banner. The entire house. They're affordable, especially with a discount code, and they're long lasting. But my personal favorite release, I think at this point it's my favorite fragrance from them because it's the most wearable, mass appealing, and easy to like from the house. I'm talking about Shameless. You've seen me, those of you that follow the channel, you've seen me feature this one a decent amount since it's come out, because I really dig it. I've worn it several times since I got it. I really like this one. They have a new release that's incredible, Diabolique, but that's spicy and creamy. This is mass appealing. You guys know I like my mass appealing fragrances. This is versatile. This works for everything. It's strong enough to work in every season, yet not so strong and dense that you can't do 1 or 2 sprays of these big gigantic sprays in the summer and get away with it. It won't be too cloying. It's fresh, it's citrus, it's a little bitter fruity tartness up top from the black currant. It's aromatic and soapy, and it's very blue at its heart. A bunch of ambergris, a little bit of vanilla creeps in. Very lovely fragrance. Kind of a hybrid of Aqua Amara meets Dior Sauvage with a little sprinkle of Creed Aventus. It's kind of what it's got going for it, and you can get them for a really good price. 10 plus hours on my skin every time I wear it. It's really good, especially if you're looking for something mass appealing that doesn't smell like everything else, but it'll remind you of several things at the same time. Like it takes a little bit of this, a little bit of that, like I just stated, with the little mixture combination, and kind of walks its own path. Check this one out, Happy Land, Shameless. So this fragrance deserves to be here every time. And while I don't feature it anytime and every time I talk about cheap, long-lasting fragrances, it's been a little while and it deserves its just due. Bentley for Men Intense. Super masculine, smoky leather, spicy, boozy rum, dense woods. It's a beast on my skin. This stuff's 12 plus on my skin as far as hours of longevity. Very loud. I never wear more than 3 sprays with this one. The way this reacts on my skin, it's very, very, very loud. And it's an older bottle that I have too. Not too old, but even the newer ones, they perform. I've got a lot of friends that have this fragrance and it performs well for all of them. You can still get it in that sub $30 range depending on where you find it. Most discounters carry this. It's easy to get a hold of. It's great for the winter. Great for the cooler fall days, cold fall evenings, early spring when it's nice and cold. Still works really well. Dresses up a lot better than it dresses down. I think Oxford are better personally, but hey, you do you. You want to wear this with a tank top in the summer? You go right ahead. I won't be doing that, but you can. Point being, it's a beast. It's suited best for semi-formal to business casual and above, personally, and definitely the cooler months because it's very, very potent. And it doesn't smell really synthetic. It actually has a high quality smell. Like they use some pretty good oils here. And like I said, plenty of performance to boot for an affordable price. One of the best long-lasting cheapies ever made, really, is Bentley for Men Intense. Last but not least, I definitely had to include a barbershop fragrance because I love the aromatic barbershop style fougere fragrances. And this one is definitely the longest lasting for me personally in my collection. That is one of the most affordable, especially performance for your money. I'm talking about Authenticity Perfumes. Barbershop has the color of Barbicide. Love that stuff. Very authentic barbershop type of stuff. This one's very aromatic, very creamy. Has some spices up top and has that Barbasol shaving cream type of feel and smell. I really dig that about it. This is more on the shaving cream than the aftershave splash. I have a lot of fragrances that go that spicy, aromatic aftershave splash type of smell, or the more leather dense ones like Happy Land Barbershop. That's more focused on the leather and citrus with the aromatics and spices. This is focused more on the creamy shaving cream appeal while still having some beautiful aromatic lavender and some nice spices and clean woods in the dry down. Very clean, foamy type of fragrance. Very affordable. You can get a sample of these from Authenticity Perfumes first as well. And I get every bit of 10 hours every time I wear it. It's a great performer for me. Very affordable too. If you like barbershop, you might want to check out Authenticity Perfumes Barbershop. Well, that's the 10 I have for you today. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. So I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. What are some of your favorite cheap fragrances that last a long time? Cheap for me is always under $40, sub $40 USD range. Have you heard of any of these before? Are some of these new information for you and you really want to try them? Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of the fragrances I featured in this video, you give them a spray now, you might end up thanking me later. Have a good one, guys.